This is the script. So, I add a lot of comments here, and also I'll send you the script as well. I don't know if I sent it to you already, but I can send you this script so you can take a look at it yourself. But here, I'm not sure what to start with, but there's just a lot of stuff in the script, right? So, the function here, it just gives the input, the subject ID, the run number, and this parameter, fMRI, is to indicate whether it's testing or if it's typically what we do, is I can test the fMRI script before we're running it on the scanner, and so it may have different parameters than when it's actually running in the scanner. Plus, we're going to do some behavioral testing. So I usually use the same script, and then I have this parameter, like whether they put in, practice, they use the subject ID 0. Anyway, you get what I'm saying with that. Yeah, okay. Okay, KB check, this is a Psychoolbox function that just makes sure that I'm able to use the keyboard. I'm not sure why I have to run this function here. Set random seed, I always like to use clock ran seed because that sets the random number generator based on the clock, and so make sure that each time you run the script, it's going to have a different randomness. Otherwise, it may use the same exact order, which is bad, which is obviously what we don't want to happen. Hide cursor, this is a Psychoolbox function that just means that you can't see the cursor on the screen because we don't want them to look at the cursor. This parameters thing is something that Matlab is always complaining about because there's a global variable, so it's hard for me to explain this right now, but right now the script, I start with this function thing. So this is also the name of the script. You can see here, it's syntax wm_fMRI.m, right? So this matches the file name. So when I run this script, it starts off with this function, but there are multiple functions within the file. So I've got this function setup screen, which I just created a new function in the same file. And so by using global, what it means is that all the functions will share that
for all functions.
variable. But Matlab says that that's a bad way to do it. What it wants you to do is to pass the variable in when you run the function, to just use the variable that exists and send it into the next one. But I was lazy and I was like, whatever, I'm just going to use the global thing. So, for me, it's certain things that I know that I may change as I'm developing the script. I'm like, well, I'm not sure how long the label should be and may change it, but then I can change it here without having to go through the whole script and find wherever I happen to run something with the label, right? So these are things that I didn't want to have to change. I wanted to be able to change them easily for everything.
So far, one question.
Yeah.
So should I follow the same steps that you have done in this experiment?
Well, that's a good question. My short answer is yes. The question is, what's our real goal, right? So if the goal is just to get this experiment over with, then yes. If the goal is for you to learn how to program experiments in Matlab that you may want to adapt for the future for other experiments, and just to also to learn more deeply these principles, then the answer is maybe, because if you just do exactly what I do, then you may not learn all the relevant things that will help, that you might need to know for the future.
I understand.
So I like to use Matlab for my experiments, but some people just get by with other stuff. Like they use, let's see, the one we were talking about, ePrime, or there's one called Presentation. There's all sorts of other things. Matlab I find helpful because I use Matlab for a lot of things. So if I become proficient in Matlab, then I can analyze data, I can visualize data, I can do other things. So, the short answer is yes, but, I'm leaving it up to you, basically.
So I try to use your code as a framework. I really didn't know how and where to start.
Yes, I see that. Yes, I know.
So, but when it goes to the experiment, so I have to make the adjustment based on the new experiment.
Yeah.
And I also try to study other people's code and, if necessary, add some
Yes,
changes.
I think it's valuable to go through that. It's a bit of a painful process. I mean, I find writing code to be tiring and difficult and annoying, especially if I'm more interested in the purpose of the code than the code itself. But like I said, I think it's valuable to be able to do that, to fully understand and be able to make decisions that are going to work well for you in the future. So, if you just want to get through it, then yes, do the thing that I did. But, I'm leaving it up to you to think through it more deeply. So here, if the subject ID is greater than 0, so what I have up here is I say if I'm just practicing, like if I'm having the subject just practice without trying to record any data, then I just say subject ID equals 0, meaning I don't want to save, I'm not trying to record real data, right? And practice may just be because I'm trying to check my script to see if it works, right? So I'll just use subject ID 0. But if it's not 0, right, then I set up a log file. This is what I was talking about before,
yes.
right? So here I've got a folder with subjects, and then it creates a subfolder with the subject ID number, and then it creates a log file. So I just use the extension .log. It doesn't matter what extension you use. I mean, you could use .txt. So long as you know it's a text file, you can put .whatever. So I put .log, so I always know it's a log file. And then this, do you know sprintf? That's a Matlab function.
Yeah, I think it just prints the data.
It's for text. So what it does here is anything in between the quotes is text, but there are variables. So here, this percent indicates a variable. So the %02D means it's a number. And so here it's going to use this one. It's going to put whatever number this is here. So if it was subject 5, it's going to put in 5 for the name of the file, or the name of the folder in this case. It's likewise for run, right? It's like run %02D, which means a run number. And the 2 part here means, I think it's looking for 2 decimal points, or D stands for double, and that's like a type of number variable. And then 02 is like the precision of it. But anyway, this works basically for subject numbers that go up to like 99, I think. And then this here is fExist, right? So so fopen is opening a file now. It's going to try to open a file with this name, because here I set the log file name to be this, and then it's going to try to open a log file. And so what that's doing is basically saying, if there does not exist a file with this name, then make the file for that subject. But if there does already exist a file, then you put out an error, because it's like, oh, you're trying to run subject 5, run 1, but you've already done that. That's bad. So stop what you're doing. And the error, I think, is a MATLAB code that like quits the function and says like, it prints out this to the screen and then it quits the function. So it's not going to let you keep going if the file already exists. You have to sort that out. Maybe you delete the file because it was the wrong one, or maybe you change the subject ID number or whatever. Okay. And then here, this is the else, right? So if the subject is a real subject, do that. If the subject's practice, then just say subject, the log file is going to be a dummy log file name that we're going to overwrite and not worry about. Okay. Now I read in a stimulus list. So this is kind of like what I have. So what I did this a little differently. I can't remember what this file looked like. Let me see if I can.
So this is the part that I have to add that new code there, right?
Yeah, this is the part that may be different. I can't remember what this looked like, but it may just be the list of blocks for that run, right? It may this file may have just been, Jabberwocky 1, Jabberwocky 2, Real Sentence 3, or whatever, right? It just may be the name of the block, and then for that block, it'll have a list of stimuli. Let me see if I can just download this real quick. I think I might have some of these files. Yeah, I don't have this downloaded yet. Come on. I don't know why it's taking so long. Is my internet connection not working? No, it's working. I don't know why Backblaze is taking so long. Come on. There we go. Okay, it's going to take a minute to load. Oh, wait a minute. My restores. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if you back up your computer.
I don't remember the last time I backed it up.
But do you back it up with like a physical hard drive?
Yeah.
I like to use this online one.
Just,
You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
You have to pay for it, but it's very convenient when I'm switching between computers and stuff, or I get a new computer, because then I can just download it all.
You know, we have iCloud from university. It has some space.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So here we go. So this part of the script here, like, okay, so yeah, I have some practice runs, which are shorter and just meant to practice for the subject. And here, this is the name of a folder, stim, and then inside of it, so stim here, right? And then this is the name of the condition. Like, this is the name of the condition, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a high-level description of the block that that's supposed to be. So let's say phone 01. Right, and then this one has the series of stimuli that are actually going to be presented. So here you see I've got the stim, the name of the block file, which are those text files that you're creating, basically. Look like that.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
trying to...
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's just...
Okay, so yeah, so this, this one is basically like the ones you were showing me.
Yeah.
Right? They're the actual text stimuli that are going to be displayed for that block.
No, what I'm thinking, why you have different text file, like this one, and then it goes to that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Oh, yes, so it's a chain in a sense. So this is the high level. This is the entire experimental run. Let's say 8 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it says do this condition. This is the phonological condition. This is the semantic condition. This is the syntactic condition, and there's a number there.
So this is the, again, pseudo...
Yes, this is all, and I created this in advance. So I pseudo-randomized the order of blocks, and then specified which block should go where, and how you see I've got rest there.
So, so it's not the same for every subject?
It is actually, so...
But you don't want it for the new project to be the same?
Correct. So there's a reason for that, yeah. So that's correct, yeah.
So I should have that file?
Yes, so what you could do is you could create this file in Matlab, right? So here, what I'm doing is I'm just reading in the file.
Yeah.
Right?
But instead of reading in the file...
You could create a file.
Yes.
Now
and then
yeah.
read the stimulus from that Excel.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Now you don't have to necessarily create a whole file. You could just create a variable that has the information in it, but you might as well create a file and then read the file.
Absorb it.
Yeah.
Digest it.
Yeah, digest it. Okay. So you just want me to keep going?
No, it's just, I'm thinking, okay, because I really don't want to go and then
I hear what you're saying.
with empty hand come
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not expecting you to do this quickly.
Yeah, but I want to be quick.
I understand.
So yes, it should randomize the runs and the blocks in the run.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yes. So and then you should have some criteria for how to randomize. So you don't want to randomize, you want to pseudo-randomize. So that's complicated to do in Matlab. That's why I cheated here and just did the same order for each subject.
I remember you told me that.
Yeah. So sometimes what I've done in the past is, so what we could do here's a suggestion. Rather than randomize it for each subject, we could just do, let's say, 2 different lists. So there's run 1, list A, and then run 1, list B, and those are just different randomizations. But
you know, in the entire experiment, we will have several runs.
Yes.
So what you are mentioning here is pseudo-randomizing one run, and like here so I'm sorry, I'm just confusing you. So last time I asked you how many runs should be in the experiment, you said it depends on the blocks that we want to have.
Exactly.
So let's suppose that we have like 8 runs in the experiment.
That's reasonable.
So if we have 8 runs, should all 8 runs the same be defined in this file like this? And
yes.
Let me maybe
I'll
show it. So you are suggesting we have like 2 sets of like experiment design. So maybe I'm not using the correct word. Like for example 1 and 2. Okay. So each one contains 8 different runs.
Yeah.
So all of the runs have the same structure here. For every subject that we are running this type to them, and then we have like for example 15 subjects that we run this design to them. So like for example, if this is the design, for example for run 1, I have to define that it starts with the Java working list and then blah blah blah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. That's not the best solution, but it kind of is easier. Yes, and people do it, and it's not a big deal. I mean, so, the reason we randomize is because of order effects, right? Because if someone sees Jabberwocky before they see real sentences, that could be different than seeing real sentences and then Jabberwocky. Or, right, there could be different effects in the fMRI signal, but in practice, we have so many runs with so many blocks that they're going to see all of these different ordering variations, and so we don't really think it's that big a deal, but by creating a second version of it, it's at least a different randomization, and so it helps to kind of mitigate a little bit of the problem of order effects that are happening there. Ideally, we would randomize it for each subject, but then when we do that, we don't want it to be completely random, because we don't want, like if you see the order here that we have for this run, right? Like we don't want to have all the stimuli in a row and then all the rest at the end. That's not good, because we want rest kind of interspersed throughout. We don't want to have the same condition 20 times in a row, because that could happen if we randomize, and so here what I did is I would randomize the order and then I just manually changed it. You could do that in Matlab, but it's annoying because you have to have if this happens, change it, but if that happens again, then change it again. It's like annoying to program that.
It's actually happening in that code that I wrote.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that, it's doing it, choosing randomly the types of sentences, and it can come with like the same type of ungrammatical.
Exactly, because it's random and that will happen. And so,
What those numbers for?
Okay, so let me just check something really quick. Let me compare it with this. I don't know why I have zeros at the end. So, I don't know why I have zeros at the end. I think I used to have some parameter that I got rid of. but these are the names of the condition. And I designed the codes to tell me. So you notice here, rest is always 9. So whenever I see a 9, I know that means rest. Here, this is 33, which is a certain condition. It's the syntax. It's a certain. I have like 6 different conditions, and so I've got 11, 12. Well, no, I've got 9 different conditions. 11, 12, 13. 21, 22, 23, and 31, 32, 33. And so they are different. Like the first number stands for like syntactic, semantic, phonological, and the second number is like, well, so another way of saying this is like I could have done this for this experiment. It could be like 1 could be syntax condition, or let's say Jabberwocky condition is 1, and then whether it's a sentence or a list would be 2, or
and
like
then,
1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
And then if it's the sentence condition, real sentence condition, that would be 2. And then if it's a list, it's 1, and it's a sentence, it's 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and is there the third number, like defining if it's grammatical?
You could do that, exactly. So that wasn't probably relevant for this study, but it would be for yours. And so the code is just a simple way of recording that information to make it easy to use when you're later trying to understand, stuff. Like, it's easier for Matlab to read this than it is to read the name of the text file. It's annoying to go through the text file name. Here, it's just a simple number, and then you can easily use it for other purposes. So here, then you'll probably do the same thing here, right? Which is saying, okay, for this subject, they're doing run whatever it is. And so if it's run 1, open the file for run 1, right? Which looks like that. And then it'll read in all of this information right at the beginning. So that's where it, parameters, in file name. Then I should have something that references in file name. Yeah, so here, okay, so yeah, so this is, okay, yeah, so this is the first function. When I first run the study, I'm running this function, and it's doing all the basic junk of figuring out the subject ID number, figuring out which run it is, finding the right file for that, if it's fMRI or not. And so there's different things that happen, whether I'm doing it in the scanner or outside the scanner. We're not going to use this stuff here. This initialize psych sound, that's when we're using the microphone. So Psychoolbox allows you to record from the microphone. We don't need that. So we can ignore this stuff. Get clicks it just means wait until the person presses the mouse click. Get clicks, I believe, is just going to wait until you. Let's actually just check. Okay, cool. I do have Psychoolbox installed. That's nice. Yeah, wait for the user to click the mouse. So it just sits there and waits until the person clicks the mouse. There's a lot built into this that Psychoolbox has already figured out for us, right?
Just a quick question. So if parameter fMRI is 1, it's recording.
So that's something that okay. So
because we don't need that else part.
Well, we may need this else. We may not need this else part. Well, here, this part of the script doesn't matter because we don't need the audio. But we may want to. There may be another part of the script where it does matter whether it's in the scanner or not.
So, when it says if parameter fMRI equals 1, what is it doing?
So that's something up here, right? So I'm just putting that parameter in. So that's just, for me, it's whether I'm running the script in the scanner or outside the scanner. And there's different things that I want to do depending on whether they're actually in the scanner or not.
Are we doing?
Potentially. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay. Right? So, for example, we have some... this study was really very different outside the scanner. We were training them by having them produce the words out loud and recording them to make sure that they could correctly produce the speech quickly and accurately. And then once we verified that, then we put them in the scanner, right? And then we didn't record any audio anymore. We do have a training period for this study, where they're supposed to, it's different things are happening. Like, it's almost, we can almost just write a different script, but I just didn't want to write a different script. I just put it all in the same script because a lot of it was shared. So it depends on how different that is, right? Inside the scanner is going to be quite different from outside the scanner for this study. So maybe we just want to create a separate script to simplify a little bit. But there's going to be a lot that you're going to have to copy and paste anyway.
Yeah.
So it just, again, these are these choices that you just decide, right? Is it better to do one script or two scripts? I don't know. You know, people have different opinions. Because if you have two scripts, then you're copying, pasting files, is, you know, just dealing with one file is always better. But, you know, you get what I'm saying. Okay, so now I end the function here. This nice Matlab tells me. So here, what this does is this part of the script is just setting up the basic junk. And then I have a new function. So I'm actually, this function, right, is actually saying run trials. So yeah, here it says read in data. That's a function that I wrote. You see, here's read in data. Right, so here it just looks like one line, but actually when I run this one line, it's going to go down to this part of the script and run this function. Right, global parameters, meaning keep the same parameters that you have in general. And then it's going to open these text files and look for the stimuli that it needs for this experiment and put them all in the right order and load them all in advance. Because what you don't want to do is load them on each trial, because that takes time. We don't want that to happen. We want the script to be ready to go to make sure that with fMRI our timing is precise. So I load everything in advance. So read in data is going to read in all the data, right? So it's going to look for, I mean, it's basically looking for this stuff here, right? It's going to open this file. Yeah, so here, this part here is going to open this file and read in all this stuff. Then here, for each trial, and now I have a loop, which is probably not the most efficient way of doing it, but it's going to go through each trial, right? And then it's going to open this file, which is, you know, this, let's say.
Okay.
Right? And then read in the specific stimuli. And then I have a big matrix here, just a big vector, which just has all the text for the entire experiment, or for that run at least. For that run, I have all the stimuli that are going to be presented in order. Yeah, so here then I end up with a stimulus list, a condition list. Stimulus list is just the literal text that's going to be displayed on the screen in order. Condition list is just each condition number in order, so I know on each trial what condition it is. Yeah, sorry. The stim list is like the name of each file. Oh, God, I can't remember. I'm just confused now. What's the stim list? Stim list equals data. Yeah, stim list would be the name of each of this, right? So it's got that listed here. And the stim matrix is literally this stuff in order. So I've got both. The file name, I'm going to record the file name and then record the contents of each file as well. And then the jitter is the timing.
Yeah.
That's what I think these zeros are. I used to have some jitter that I just took out. But you could randomly specify this jitter, right? And we probably want to do it in increments of like 500 milliseconds or something like that. That's going back to what we were talking about there.
Yeah. So it should be like defined by hand, right?
Yeah, I mean you can just randomize them, but yeah, define it in advance. Yeah, because basically we just want to have a tiny jitter. Like, yeah.
Okay.
I think I have to think about that more because we probably want the jitter to be, we want the same amount of jitter for each condition.
You know what I was thinking, you know, maybe like for example the manuscript I prepare something and I give it to you, then like you can't think about the details.
Yes, good,
Yeah.
yes, that's good. Agreed. There's a lot, I know.
No, it's fine. You know, it's
Okay.
just, you know, I really appreciate that you are walking me through it, because if I wanted to like start from scratch,
I know,
it would take me years.
Yeah, no, right. No, I agree.
You know, I have this.
Well, like I said, my first year of grad school, I took 2 classes of Matlab programming, right? And so I wish that they had something like that.
I
here.
had like Matlab, when I was working with Roosevelt, I attended
Oh,
this
good.
workshop.
Oh, good.
It was not workshop. It was something that I myself purchased from
Oh.
an
Oh,
Iranian
wow.
instructor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I watched it and I learned with the basics of Matlab, but because it's just the coding is
Yes, but I mean,
hard for me.
I took months of a class, right, of doing projects, and
Yeah,
that was part of my
that's
training.
different.
That would be much more appropriate,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That would be much more helpful. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Okay. So that's this function, right? This is the read-in data trial. Okay. So then this is a setup screen. Same thing. This is a function that I wrote. Setup screen, and so that's getting in. The setup screen function is figuring out, where is the text going to be presented, how big, what kind of font, what other parameters might be relevant, if there's color or this kind of stuff. And so, there's all this kind of random junk. Screen number equals 0, because that's like like when your computer is like trying to figure out which display, like is it going to display to the one on the laptop, is it going to display to an external monitor, and so that depends on where you plugged it in and all this crap. So you just have to like figure out which is the right screen number. I think I just went with screen number 0. So yeah, and this is like, okay, it should be Arial font, and then these are parameters for the window size to appear. It should be full screen, for example. I can't remember what all these parameters mean. Set text color default to white. And so this is white index. I don't know.
It doesn't, the Psychoolbox doesn't define these parameters.
There's probably some defaults, but it depends a lot on your particular computer and the monitor that you're hooked up to, and how it interprets all of that. So you can't just go with the defaults, because that may look different depending on which you hook it up to. And so, for example, I think what I tried to do here is, I don't know. I think I just like manually tried different font sizes and colors and things like that.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So you may have to, again, like you mentioned, if you write the thing, I can come back and play with it. And so this, text size. Yeah, this displays a get ready screen. So the draw formatted text is a Psychoolbox function, which window pointer is saying go to the right screen, and then literally the text get ready. You're going to display absolutely centered with the white font. And then drawing finished means this is all just preparing the text to be displayed. It's not actually going to display it yet. The flip here is what refreshes the screen to display the text that you prepared. You see how convoluted all this is? It's like takes forever. And then wait sex 1.5 means just sit there for 1.5, like refresh the monitor so that it displays the text, and then sit for 1.5 seconds. And I could have set this parameter. I probably should have set this parameter up here and said, parameter, get ready time equals 1.5. But I kind of just knew that I was only going to use it that one time, and so that's why I just did it here for 1.5. But you could easily have added that to the parameters on the top. And then display a blank screen. So this is the thing, whenever you're displaying text, you don't want to just flip from text to a different text, because that's jarring. So you want to display text and then have a little bit of a gap of blank screen, so that it looks more natural and doesn't look as jarring. Like if you just go like text, it's weird.
I know.
So text off.
I can feel that. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So display. So here, fill rect. I think what this meant is basically just display a black screen, and then flip it, put it on the screen. So now this screen is going to be black after it's done this get ready. Okay. And then if we go back to, this is like, again, this is the script that runs the whole experiment, but you just see read in data is like one line, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Setup screen, there's a bunch of stuff that just happened. And then run trials means run the experiment. And so if you go down to run trials, that's where the real meat of the experiment is. So I get the time. I figure, okay, what's the time now? Okay, or just whatever the timestamp is, record it. Then I find out what's the condition for this trial, what's the stimulus that I want to present on this trial, and then I'm telling the subject the cue, right? So if the condition is, so for this experiment, they had a condition where they had to read the text and do nothing, or they had a condition where they had to read the text and then repeat it to themselves. So that would be very much like, for you, it would be like sentence or list or something like that, right? Like, they should know whether they're doing grammaticality judgment or whether they're looking for repetition. So we'd probably want, like, maybe it would be, grammaticality judgment would display on the screen, or, I don't know what, a correct sentence, question mark, something like that, versus repeated words, question mark, right? Instead of read and repeat. But does that make sense? Yeah. And then there's different numbers of stimuli. So this one's actually a more annoying experiment than the one you have, because the number of words here was either 5 or 9, I guess. I can't remember, it's been so long. But yeah, it's trying to figure out, oh God, trial times. Yeah, this is an initialization. I don't know if you know what NaN means. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to fill in the times at which each stimulus should start, but I'm creating the vector here in advance, and then filling it with dummy variables, and then I'm going to update it later. Yeah. Oh God, it's been so long since I looked at the script. I mean, I hard-coded some of these things. I don't know why I did that. Okay, and then I figured out end of trial equals time now plus 10. So it's like, okay, I know what time we're supposed to start, and then I figure out, based on that, what time we have to move on to the next trial. Because there's always going to be little timing, the script may take longer for one trial than another by, maybe a few tens of milliseconds. And so we always say the deadline when the next trial should begin, even if it takes slightly longer for the trial. It doesn't matter. We're going to cut it off at exactly 10 seconds because the scanner is going to go at exactly 10 seconds. This is rest, right? So if the condition is 9, do rest. So then display fixation, right? It's going to show the fixation cross here, which is just a plus sign. Yeah, display item plus sign, and then deadline on and deadline off. So basically saying start at this time and stop at this time. And then this is for the last trial of the run, which means display until the thing ends. I have to look at the details here. End of trial. And then, okay, if it's not rest, if it's an actual stimulus, then we display the cue that we set up, right? So here it was read or repeat. For us, it would be like good sentence or, repeated words, right? Whatever the cue is for the subject. And then here we say, okay, deadline on means time now plus, God, I gotta remember what deadline on and deadline off is. So like, label on time, what's that? Oh yeah, okay. So here, you notice here, label on time is 1.3 and label off time is 0.2. The total time for the label is 1.5. But like we said before, we don't want to just go from text to text. So we'll display the text for 1 second and 300 milliseconds, and then leave it as a blank screen for 200 milliseconds. This is this label off time. So here, I think what's going on here is display the cue. Oh my God, sorry. Display item.
Yeah, it does here.
If real condition, deadline on equals this, deadline off equals that. So yeah, so time now plus 1 1,300 milliseconds. Deadline off is 1,500 milliseconds. Yeah, it's deadline on this one plus this, which is 200, if that makes sense, right? Okay, then timestamp equals display item. This should be another function, which is, this is the stimulus that we're going to display. In this case, it's the condition Q, or label. And this is the on time and the off time. And if I find out where is display item at? Okay, yeah, so here, display item. This is the stimulus, this is the time on, this is the time off. Yeah, so here, draw formatted text. Yeah, draw formatted text. So here, item 1, that's the condition label or the stimulus, the text that's going to be displayed. So this draw formatted text is just a Psychoolbox function saying, set up text that's going to be centered with the right color, in the right place. Screen drawing finished, meaning the text is ready to go. Then we do screen flip, which now means to, make it visible, refresh the monitor. And then wait as long as the item is supposed to last. So then just sit there until the deadline of when it's supposed to be on. Then flip it to black, and then wait there until that 200 milliseconds is elapsed. That's what this one is here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, God, I'm sorry.
No.
I know this is like overwhelming. It must be.
Yeah, it's just lots of information.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're recording it.
Hopefully we're recording it. Yes. This seems like it's recording.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see there, there's all this junk for the experiment, but I was just going back to the very beginning of the trial, which was here, which is to display the condition. Yeah, it's a real condition, so display the Q. So here we have display item, and we had to skip all the way down to display item. That's what it did, right? So here, this one was just displaying the condition Q. Then between the label or the Q, there's a fixation cross for a brief amount of time, and that's just getting the subject ready to have the stimulus. So here we display item as just a plus sign for however long. And the reason I have that plus sign is that's where I put the jitter. So I'm going to this plus sign is going to be on for a variable amount of time, depending on the jitter for that trial. So I'm going to mess with it in increments of 500 milliseconds. Okay, and then after that, depending on the condition, right? So if it's one condition, then it's going to look different, right? For your experiment, it's probably going to look always the same because it's always going to be a sequence of words the same length. This one's weird because, there's just the stimuli look different depending on the trial, depending on the condition. So it's more complicated than yours should be. Yeah, so here, for example, syntactic trial, they had 2 phrases. So a series of words. Whereas here, for these trials, they just had 2 words. So they just looked different, that's all I'm saying. Because here I'm putting in a space, right? So I've got word 1, and I've got a space, and then I've got word 2. So literally that's just adding a space in between the 2 words, whereas this one's just putting each word in a row. Display stimulus, right? So I figure out the time again, the deadline on, the deadline off. Now this is stim on time and stim off time. So if I go back up all the way to the beginning to these parameters, stim on time is 800 milliseconds. Stim off time is 200 milliseconds. So you see I'm always doing 200 milliseconds for the off time. And that's just something that seems reasonable for most self-paced reading studies, where you mostly want to look at text, and then you want a brief period of gap before the next text. So I always go with 200 milliseconds, but people go with different amounts, but 200 is fine. So here, basically, we're considering that that word is going to be on the screen for a second, but really it's only on the screen for 800 milliseconds. But that's going to take up 1 second of time for that word before the next thing is presented, right? So if we go back all the way down here, yeah, so that's why stem on time, that's 800, stem off time, that's 200 milliseconds. And then display item, again, it's going to go all the way down there. It's going to put this stimulus in, which is this thing that I created here. And then it's going to display the first stimulus for 1 second, and then it's going to display the second stimulus, right, for a second, and then it's going to just keep going through all the different. So you would just need like 6 of these basically for yours. Yes. Then I had fixation until the end of trial. Yeah. With the jitter. So yeah, display item, now it's just a plus sign, which is the fixation cross. And then I think, yeah, gosh. Yeah, this is if the following trial is rest or not, yeah. But here you can just see like deadline on, deadline off. So display the fixation cross for, so you've got fixation off time. However much time that was, probably set to 200 milliseconds. Yeah, fix off time. Oh, really? Where's my fixation? Oh, yeah, fixation off time, 200 milliseconds, yeah. And that's pretty much it, I think. This is the function that's running the trials. It just ran through and ran a trial, and there's a loop, so it's going to go through each trial in that block. This is all the audio stuff that we don't need because this is not relevant to us, this stuff here. So it's going to do the audio data collection, which we don't need. And then at the end of that, it's going to update the log file. So there it just says, so update log file is going to again be another function, but we've got the times that each trial began. The I is, what is I? I should probably have used a different variable than I. This is the number of trials. So yeah. It's just the trial number. So the times, the trial number, the trial items is the stimuli, and the trial codes are like the condition codes, like what condition it was. And you can see update log file down here, right? It's going to open a log file, and then it's going to do this fprintf. Fprintf basically takes a text file and adds a line. That's what fprintf does. So here I added a line. FID is the file ID number, and then I add the time, the trial number, the stimulus, and this is the text of the stimulus, and this is the condition number. And then so then after it runs that trial, it's going to add an element to the log file to show what it did for that trial. Okay, that's it. This stuff here, activate, this is only, we may or may not want to try to do this, but what you can do is, so the way I have the script set up, and the way that a lot of people do that, is you start the scanner and you start your script at the same time. And then you assume that they're going to go proceeding at the right times. That is potentially a problematic assumption. We assume that the scanner is perfect, but it may not be. You know, we may think, okay, look, every TR is 2 seconds, and so it's going to go for, that long, and it's never going to take more or less than 2 seconds. But, in practice, that may not be the case. And so with your script in Matlab, you can actually read in data from the scanner. So the fMRI scanner can send out a signal saying, I'm collecting a TR. And you can, basically the scanner will send out a signal each TR to say, I'm doing a TR, I'm doing a TR, I'm doing a TR. And so you can literally read in that information and then tell your experiment script to only proceed in synchrony with what it's getting from the scanner, rather than assuming it's going to be a certain timing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So just an irrelevant question. So this
Okay.
is the behavioral experiment. So how the parameters of the MRI?
No, this is the fMRI. This is both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything I've been explaining is for both fMRI and behavioral. For
Like we
study.
were talking about the TR image.
Yeah.
So it's this script define those parameters, right?
yeah, this script was designed with the TR in mind.
Mm.
I already knew what my TR was going to be. I knew my TR was, say, 2 seconds.
Mm.
I can't remember what it actually was, but 2 seconds seems reasonable. So I designed the script with a TR of 2 seconds in mind.
Mm. Well, for 1 second, I thought it's just they're different. There should be different script for.
Yes, and that's depends a lot on what you're doing. It depends on how similar your experiments are. So for this one, the timing of the stimuli, what the subject saw was very similar between the fMRI experiment and the behavioral one. And so there I was saying, look, I'm going to use the same script and then just...
No, but I think I
Okay.
expressed my question in a incorrect way.
Okay.
I meant, it sounds silly. The parameters of the MRI machine, how it works.
Yeah.
So that parameters are not defined
Oh,
by.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah, so there's a scanner computer which sets up all the parameters for the scanner, communicates directly with the scanner. Our script will never send any information to the scanner, but it can receive information from the scanner.
Okay.
So if you're really good at this, which I am not, I've done this in the past, but I also get tired, and it's like, okay, it's kind of annoying to figure out how to do that. But you can set your computer up to receive information and then only start showing stimuli when it knows it's getting the right signal from the scanner.
Mm-hmm.
But our computer will never tell the scanner when to begin or not collecting. That's what the person who's operating it is going to say, okay, I'm going to start data collection now. And then the scanner is going to be like, okay, I'm going to do my stuff. Now I'm ready to go. And the scanner could send a signal to us basically of when it's collecting data. And then we can use that to tell it when to present stimuli. But in practice, a lot of people don't do that, including me. It's annoying to figure that out. So we just assume the scanner is correct, which is probably fine if you're doing a block design, because any minor variations are not going to be the end of the world for a block design. Because if you're presenting stimuli for 30 seconds or 20 seconds, being off by 400 milliseconds, let's say, is not a big deal, because 20 seconds is way more, okay. So if you think the data was being collected, 400 milliseconds before or after that time point, it's not going to change what you're going to get out of the data. But if you're doing an event-related design, especially a lot of visual stimuli, or auditory stimuli, have very precise timing, and that could screw everything up if you're doing an event-related design. So if I was doing an event-related design, I absolutely would make sure to get the information from the scanner to know that I'm presenting stimuli right as the data, in synchrony with the scanner. Yeah, so all this stuff, we don't need any of this. All this stuff from here and below is all related to what I was just talking about. Reading information from the scanner and making sure that you are synchronized, which I didn't end up using for this study, and we probably aren't going to use for this current study.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Unless there's any stuff we should chat about to make sure it gets included in the recording.
No, I think for now I don't have any questions.
Okay, I'm going to stop.